Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Manitoba Agriculture Crop Talk webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation this morning, please type them into the Q&A icon on your Zoom toolbar, and we'll get to them at the end of each presentation. This webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurie. I'd like to welcome everybody to the July 16th edition of Crop Talk. And as the year goes by, the crops are advancing, and we got a nice break in the weather this week. We got a little bit away from all the heat we were getting. We got a little bit of rain in most areas of the province, and lower temperatures. And we were talking just before that it sure noticed the difference in crops after we got that little bit of rain. So if you were, I guess, one of the areas that was lucky enough to get some rain, you sure noticed a difference in crop, as it just seemed to perk up after the rains went through. So hopefully we get a bit more to keep the crop going and keep it developing, as we're kind of in the stage now for a lot of the crop for uh, filling heads, filling pods, producing pods and canola. So extreme temperatures wouldn't be great, and moisture would be great. And it's kind of funny. We went from 30 or plus 30 degrees to this morning, or it was like +7, +6 in some areas. So I don't want to even think about what could happen on the other side. So let's not even talk about it. So today on Crop Talk, we're going to be looking at one of the diversification centers. This will be the Prairies East Center, and Nirmal will be on. He's the applied research specialist in that area, and he'll be talking about what they've been doing in their area and their research center, and also giving us a heads up of what's going to be happening on their tour on July 30th of this year. So we can kind of pique our interest to get us to come down and take a look at some of the work they've been doing. After that, we're going to head into a crop update, and then crop scouting panels. We've had a few questions come in, and take the day that way. So with that, I will get Nirmal to grab the screen, and we will start with the PESAI update.
Thank you, Lionel. Thank you so much for me having on this webinar today. We are tracking for the weather right now. So weather-wise, in this whole area, North Central Lake. So we operate in Arborg, which is almost.
Nirmal, if you just want to grab the screen and put your screen up.
Yeah, sure. Can you see the poster, Lionel?
Yes, but just go into.
That's all. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have only this poster to show. I'm gonna just talk. Anyways, guys, so we operate from Arborg in North Central Lake, and this year we're super dry. I was looking on the weather report from Manitoba Ag from May 1st to July 6th, and we're only 28% of the normal rainfall. So we're super dry, and we didn't get much rain actually and moisture in the last fall. So most of the crop types, they are feeling this effect. I think even if we get rain now, it will be beneficial for some crop types, especially the soybeans or the corn, silage corn, or maybe the canolas. We also do plots in Bossier, which is kind of on the east side of the province. And Bossier's had got almost 41% of the normal rainfall so far. And that's a good news if we compare with Arborg. So the plots in Bossier are looking a little bit better than Arborg. So PESAI, as you have seen, Prairies East Sustainable Agriculture Initiative. We have 2 sites, and this year we're doing more than 2,500 plots with more than 50 projects. Some of you might know, we are the core site for the MECFET program in Arborg. So we have a lot of crop types for the varietal testing in Arborg, which comprises cereals, peas, soybeans, silage corn, flax, canola, sunflowers, and forages. This year we also have lupins in Arborg. This is a kind of new addition for this year. In Bossier, we do cereals, soybeans, grain corn, sunflowers, and fava beans. So if you see Arborg and Bossier in Seed Manitoba, that's PESAI stuff we do every year. So if somebody wants to see those plots when you come to the crop tour in Arborg, you can see a lot of crop types, a lot of varieties, and especially in a year like this, you can see how those varieties are performing under dry conditions for different crop types. Talking about the crop day, so we're gonna have on July 30th, and this is a kind of morning show. We start at 8:45 with the registrations, and then we're gonna have some good talks for you guys. We'll start with the talk on the soybean and field pea production. Terry Buzz, production agronomist with MPSC for the Eastern region. So he's gonna touch on some of the issues we have so far in this year for soybean and pea production. Terry is also talking about the varietal selection process, how you can select a suitable variety for your field, depending on so many things. This year, as I already told, we're super dry, so he's going to touch on the nutrient uptake and how the different soil types will affect in varietal selection. As far as this talk is concerned, I haven't seen any IDC in my plot so far. We're dry, but I believe Terry is going to touch on all those things, and we haven't seen any soybean aphids so far. Probably in the next 2-3 weeks. Usually, it's going to be end of July, early August. So we'll keep eye on that, and Terry will touch on all those things. The second talk is on the flax. Loveleen Dillo, the new agronomist in residence with the University of Manitoba, she's going to talk on the flax production and all the issues flax is facing nowadays in the province. She has some projects on the site here, especially in context with the weed control. So we're trying different ways so that if the weeds, they can stay longer with the crop, how they will affect the crop, or if we control the weeds earlier, how they're gonna benefit the crop. So you will have a chance to see all those plots. So flax is also have some other issues, especially on the diseases side. So we have a trial we call flax seed treatment trial. So trying different fungicides, seed treatments to control root rots. And this project is from Manitoba Croplands. And we also have a flax trial where we try different lines against the checks to see if those new lines they're better in production. So we have few flax trials which you will get a chance to see if you come to the crop tour. The next talk will be on the soil health, which is by Brent Vancognet. He is the project coordinator for Soil Health Network with SN1 College. So this will be kind of interaction with the participants. So it's going to be two-way interaction. So Brent would like to know what you guys do at your farm, because everybody, I think we all do good things at the farm, which helps soil health. But there's no single bullet which will fit on all farms. So we're gonna just talk. We're gonna discuss all those options, which will be beneficial for the soil health for your farm. And we all know soil health is a kind of hot topic nowadays, especially from carbon sink point of view and nutrient cycling or biodiversity. And we all know some of the soils have been degraded in the last many years. So this is going to be a kind of interaction with the participants on the soil health. The fourth talk will be on the greenhouse gas emissions from Mario Tenuta's lab. And actually, Mario is not going to be able to make this time. So Manasa from Manitoba Agriculture. So he's going to talk on reducing greenhouse emissions while maintaining the crop production. So we have this project from Mario's team for the last 2 years. This is the third year. And in this project, Mario's team is trying a nitrification inhibitor if it helps in reducing emissions. And they're trying different rates of nitrogen with and without nitrification inhibitor. So they have completed 2 successful years, not just at PESAI, but also at other DCs. So Manasa is going to touch on all those findings from the previous years, what happened so far, and he will reflect on this whole project. So this project is going to run for another couple of years. This is the third year, and we have flax this year. We started with canola in 2023. We had wheat last year, and this is the third year. Unfortunately, we are super dry this year, so flax hasn't emerged very good, but still we're doing the gas emission part so that we know what happens when you apply different rates of nitrogen with or without nitrification inhibitor. And the last talk will be by Ann Kirk, provincial cereal specialist. So she's going to talk on the narrow row spacing in cereal crops. So this year, PESAI has started a project, a kind of preliminary investigation, how the narrow row spacing affects the production in the spring wheat. So this is not a new idea. Some other folks have done this work. I was looking on work from University of Manitoba. They have showed like this narrow spacing helps the greater production. And also Yield Enhancement Network, EN from Ontario and Midwest US. They have done some field scale comparisons where they have seen the narrow spacing is a beneficial for the production. So here at PESAI, usually we're going to seed wheat at 9 inches from row to row. But in this project, we're also trying 4.5 inches. Everything else will be kept same in both treatments. So we're going to see how the narrow spacing will affect the production. And Anchor, she will also be talking on the cover crops in the cereals. So we have a project from MCA in collaboration with Anchor, where she is investigating how we can establish different cover crops, especially the legumes, with winter wheat. So this project was started in the fall of 2023 when we seeded winter wheat with legumes. And then we also broadcasted legumes in spring of 2024. So we finished winter wheat crop last year, which was excellent crop. And now in the third year, we have canola this year. We want to see how the legumes will benefit the following year crop. And she is trying different rates of nitrogen. She has reduced some rates just to see if the legumes have fixed some nitrogen in the soil. This is a dry year, and you will see when you will come to the site what happened to canola. So this will be interesting talk by Ann Kirk on both narrow row spacing as well as on the cover crop establishment in cereals. So yeah, we welcome all of you to join us for the show. We're going to start in the morning with some coffee and donuts, and we'll finish by lunch after we finish all the talks. You have to do only one thing. Please RSVP to us if you're planning to join us. So you gotta either text or phone on 204-494-0480. or you can email us on prairies.east@gmail.com. So in addition to the crop tour, again, if you're coming to us, you will have chance to see all other projects we have on the site. I'm not going to mention all of them. As I already told, we have more than 50, but there are a few more projects which I would like to mention in very brief. We have a project from Agri and Agri-Food Canada on wheat, spring wheat, where we are trying different types of nitrogen fertilizers with different rates at different times. And they are trying to see correlation between the soil moisture when you apply nitrogen in the early fall or mid-fall, late fall, or maybe in the spring, and the different rates and how do they reflect into the production. This will be the second year, and we have this trial on a little bit bigger scale. This is doing very good so far, despite very dry conditions. And then we have a trial from Duxon Limited on the seeding rate in winter wheat. We're trying relatively new varieties overdrive and cold front at different seeding rates. So you can see how the plots are looking like right now. We have lupins, as I already mentioned. This is the first year. Our site is relatively high in pH. So lupins, they don't like high pH. So you can see how they are doing so far. We have white, blue, and yellow types. And we also have canola variety testing trial this year after many years. We have both Roundup Ready and Liberty Link varieties. We're trying side by side along with the checks. We're planning to have another extension event. Actually, it's going to be by Sonia Wilson, most likely on August 14th on the canola disease side of it. So she is planning to have a workshop on the canola diseases. And as some of you know, we have tile drainage on the site. So we're trying subsurface irrigation in soybeans. This is the perfect year to try it. We're putting some water into the tiles to see if we can use tiles both ways. Also to drain out the water, but in a year like this, if we can put some moisture underneath using tiles. So this will be a good opportunity to see how the soybeans are performing. We have put once. We're planning to have another one maybe next week. So hopefully this will help soybeans. We have seen some good numbers in 2023 when we did put water into the tiles. And the last project, we are trying to have some sampling from the tiles and also from the non-tile land to see how tiles are affecting soil microbiology underneath. So we're going to have some soil sampling. We'll send it to some labs for PLFA testing to see if the tiles, they also do some changes in the soil microbiology. So yeah, this is everything from me, Lionel. I again welcome all of you to our crop day on July 30th, and hopefully I will see you some of you there. Thank you.
Okay, got a couple questions for you, and first one was regarding you mentioned you have faba bean and peas growing there.
Yes, peas in Arborg and faba beans in Bossier.
Okay, so the question is, a lot of the province has been seeing pea leaf weevil this year. Have you been seeing it in your area as well?
Not really. We did see pea aphids probably 2 weeks ago, 20 days ago, I would say.
Actually,
But
is the pea leaf weevil?
no, we haven't seen much.
Oh, okay. Okay. Flax. Okay, the next question was regarding flax. You mentioned you're doing work with disease in flax.
Yes.
Are you working with Pasmo is the question.
This project is basically for the root rots. So they're trying different chemistries to see if they can control some of the root rots in flax. Not really with the Pasmo.
Okay. I'm just going through the list here. Okay. greenhouse gas emission project. You mentioned that. So I know Scott mentioned it last time when he was on that Wade was doing. So that would be the very similar trial that Wade was doing.
Yes, so we have the same trial at our site from Mario's team.
Okay, so are you seeing any difference? You mentioned you're having a fairly dry year there this year. Are you seeing differences from dry years to wet years?
It's a good question, actually. Like in the crop, like how the crop is behaving right now, sorry, right? That's the question.
Well, are in the emissions numbers?
Actually, Lionel, the emission samples go to the lab, to Mario's lab. And I know, I mean, we can't see what happens. They do analyze mostly after the crop season. From the previous 2 years, there were differences in the quantity of the emissions we got in 2023 and 2024 within the sites and also among the sites. And I know when Mario was presenting those numbers, he did explain a few things like why those might be different at different sites. So yeah, there were some differences. I'm not sure that was just because of dry or wet here.
Okay. You mentioned you're doing some work with intercropping in winter wheat. The question was, what legumes are you using?
We have red clovers, sweet clovers. We have alfalfa. We also have perennial ryegrass, and we had one more actually. So we have four legumes and one grass seeded into the winter wheat.
Okay. And a question for this one, I'm curious to know how does it work to put water into the tiles? How do you go about doing that?
So we have a creek nearby from where we can get the water. We have the water use license. So what we do, we pump water from the creek and we put into the control structures. So folks who don't know control structures, so when the tiles drain out water, it goes into a kind of a gate we call control structure, and we can control the gates. We can close the gates, we can open up the gates. So when we drain out the water, basically we open up the gates and the water flows out of those structures into the well, and then eventually it goes into the ditches. But in a year like this, we're gonna close the gates, and then we can put water into those control structures, and that goes back into the tiles. Um, Previously, we had very long plots, and when I say long, they were like more than 200-meter long plots. And that was like really a long distance to put the water back into the tiles because of the slope. But now we have subdivided those bigger plots into relatively smaller plots, and now the plots are 60-meter long. So the slope is, I mean, we have slope, but it's not a huge hindering effect when we put water back into the tiles. And actually in 2023, when we were putting water back into the tiles, we have seen water coming on the surface just above the tiles. So it's not difficult to put water into the tiles. You got to just plan on the design. And I know Dr. Ranjan, who is lead on this project, he has mentioned to further improve the design so that farmers can use water into the tiles if it's a dry year. So yeah, we put water into the control structures and that goes back into the tiles, and we close the gates and water stays into the plots.
Okay, so on a field scale, it might be, I guess, the way tiles have been because they naturally drain to one area, right? So it might be a little bit harder to do on field scale than small plot scale.
I think so. It might be more challenging depending on the length of the tiles. But I know Dr. Ranjan was mentioning another kind of design, and honestly, I'm not the expert on this tile drainage, but he did mention about a plan, about a design which will be more beneficial to keep water into the tiles if somebody is planning to do that.
Okay, well, all the questions I have for you right now, Nirmal. Thank you for coming on today. And just to remind everybody the date again and the time you start.
Yeah, it is July 30th, Wednesday. We're gonna start 9:30, and it's gonna be morning show. And once we finish off everything, you will get a delicious lunch. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Nirmal. That was some good information, and hope everybody attends and gets some good information. I see there's some pretty good topics there, so thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go from that into a bit of a crop update right now, and I guess just some update on winter wheat and fall rye. The crop is actually starting to turn in at times, and right now, and producers are seeing it starting to turn in head fill. So we're actually the dry conditions have made it so some of the crop almost looks like it's maybe burning in a little bit, but it's they're definitely got a couple of winter wheat fields in the area that I've been looking at that seem to be turning. So, but the head is definitely filling, and the kernels are getting right to the edge of the gloom. Spring wheat is pretty much in full head right now. Some of the later seeded fields, the heads have emerged and are filling. Probably right now, most of the area has seen um, pretty much all the fusarium that spraying that's going to occur, and basically it's that's been completed already. So basically now it's just a matter of watching the crop ripen in. When you look at the condition of a lot of the crop, uh, in some of the regions, we got about a third of the crop that's in excellent shape, and then some crops that are in that good to normal kind of stage, and just one area reporting some poor crop, and that'd be in the central area where it's about 10%. I know in the past reporting in the Southwest, there was some excellent percentages there, a number in the excellent column, but the dry conditions have maybe brought that down to, and they kind of just dropped into the good condition right now. It's going to be hard to tell as to where we're seeing, and we're going to have some questions for Anne later on regarding some of the wheat heads that we've been seeing in the field, and but just it's going to be interesting to see how some of the crop did kind of manage the dry conditions and the extreme heat we had. Field peas are flowering in most areas, and with some of the early seeded crops potting right now, and most fields showing good pod production. Peas are doing really well right now. I think they've handled a lot of the heat and the dry conditions as good as any crop, and are doing okay. I don't see a lot of aphids yet. I know there's been some reports where some areas are reporting that they're seeing some aphids starting to show up, but I think producers just need to keep an eye on it. This would be the time for scouting your fields and making sure that we don't get too many aphids showing up. They can start feeding on the pods or the flowers, and that's when they can do most of their damage, especially when the pods are in the, like the picture on the screen here, when they're in that flat stage, they can do a fair bit of damage there. And then so definitely be out scouting your fields right now for aphids if you're seeing some. Soybeans, the soybean crop is progressing fairly well. It's one of those crops that's going to be needing some rains here over the next little while. And I think that's going to be kind of crucial for it. The early seeded soybeans are in that R1 to R2 stage, with the later ones being in that V3 to V5 stage. Definitely seeing flowers on a lot of the plants right now. I guess one of the key things I've been seeing is the flowering is fairly low on the plant this year, and so harvest rolling, I guess, is going to be very important. We talked about rolling earlier on in the growing season for getting those stones out of the way. Well, I think this year we're going to be having to cut fairly close to the ground because a lot of those lower flowers are a couple inches off the ground, so we're going to have some pods that are going to be fairly close to the ground. So that'll be something that we'll see as we're going. But a couple rainfalls can definitely see these crops extending and producing more yet. So we're waiting for the rain for the soybeans. Canola. I guess we mentioned this every week regarding canola, that we've got so many different growth stages of canola out there this year, that from the early seeded canola to the later seeded canola. So we have a wide window of what's happening out in the field. Later seeded canola is bolting right now, getting into full flower in a lot of cases, just kind of approaching that stage where producers would be looking at spraying it. The early seeded canola in a lot of areas is full flower, has been sprayed with fungicide if it's been required, and is into pod fill development. So those earlier seeded crops are ones we should be scouting for diamondback moth, and seeing if there's any feeding going on there. Most cases, fungicide application is being done, but right now it'll be on the late seeded fields. The early seeded fields are, in most cases, are past the stage where fungicide application would have occurred already. So, or it's too late. So again, wide range crop there. I think it's going to be one of those long harvests for canola this year, as we see the crop starting to develop. And I think rainfall and cooler temperatures are going to be better for it right now, because just so we don't see any damage to the flowers as we see the crop develop. So that's about it for the crop update this week. Got a couple questions that have come in for the crop scouting panel, and the first one I'm going to go into is going to be to Anne, and I think we see this. We've seen this last year, and we're seeing it again this year. Some of the bottoms of the heads and the tops of the heads, we're seeing not our lack of development of seed in these areas, and then we're starting to see some white spots in some of the fields. If you have any comments regarding that.
Sure. Yeah. So often we will see the bottom spikelet and the top spikelet on a wheat head not being fully developed. What the picture that Lionel's showing here, we're seeing a couple of the bottom spikelets either likely having aborted kernels and not developing properly. This likely is well, this would be a result of stress. In many parts of the province, likely lack of moisture if it's been a dry area, or perhaps heat stress. Like it's possible that the anthers come out and then it's so hot that they aren't viable. So it would be a result of stress. And as we know from wheat, like the middle of the spike flowers first, and then it flowers up and down. So that's why we often end up with the bottom and the top having aborted kernels or not fully developed spikelets. And yeah, I have noticed quite a few spring wheat fields with white or like yellow patches in the field. The ones that I've seen have been in very dry areas where we are seeing a lot of moisture stress. So walking some of these fields, like I have noticed a lot of dried up and yellowed bottom leaves, or leaves throughout the whole plant just due to moisture stress. And then in some areas, these patches are just kind of like fried off leaves. So like just a yellow patch of plants where all the leaves are fried off in yellow. likely also just due to moisture stress. Like those plants have likely run out of moisture. I have also seen a lot of like quite a bit of wheat stem maggot, like those white heads in the field due to wheat stem maggot. Those would be more kind of like generally dispersed throughout the field, but the patches that Lionel's showing, um, like in this field, it looks like it's kind of in a high spot, so likely somewhere where there's less water holding capacity of the soil and where it would have dried out a bit quicker. In kind of flatter areas, I've seen them dispersed throughout the field, and you can't really see a topography change, but likely just a result of having a drier area of the field.
Yeah, one of the things I've been seeing too is almost like a waving in some of the fields, even on the flatter areas or like the level areas. You'll get the crop kind of a certain height and then drops off a little bit and goes up again. So again, probably because it's dry and maybe not as good a root development in some areas.
Yeah, so like around where I live, it's been quite dry, and looking at wheat fields in that area, I've seen like extremely poor root development. So basically no roots being developed because it was so hot and dry early on in the season. So when I'm looking at those patches in the field and walking a field like that, I'm not surprised at all that those patches are yellow and dried off because when you pull the plants, there's basically no roots. So they're not able to access, like there is water down, further down in the soil profile, but right at the top of the soil, it's dried out so quickly, and there's no roots in the plant to access that water deeper down.
So have you been scouting any fields for fusarium, Anne, yet?
No, we haven't started the fusarium head blight survey yet. I'm likely assuming it's going to start like that will start next week as long as plants are ready. So we'll have an update in a couple of weeks in terms of what we're seeing for fusarium. I have noticed fields starting to change color, and when I've checked those fields, they're not quite at the stage when we'd start to do fusarium head blight survey yet. But they're starting to change color in some cases because they're running out of moisture.
Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts? Are you thinking it's going to be a low season for fusarium because of the dryness or?
That would be my expectation in it's it's hard to comment like on a province-wide basis, but in many areas of the province we were very dry leading up to the time when wheat was flowering. At around the time wheat was flowering, at least in the central region, we did start to see more rain showers. So um I think that like the amount of spraying that we'll see really depends on what people's crop condition looked like. So people that were in a quite dry area where their crops looked poor or had low yield potential, I'm expecting that a lot of those farmers wouldn't have sprayed. I know in our area, quite a few people didn't spray for fusarium because the yield potential was so low and it was so dry. But in areas where people had adequate moisture and good yield potential, even if it was quite dry, my thought is that quite a few of them would have sprayed. I don't think we'll see a lot of fusarium this year just because it has been generally quite dry. But we do know that even if we get moisture like later in flowering, we could still end up with fusarium or higher levels of dawn. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see how that turns out.
Okay, and a question just came in regarding tillers. Are you noticing in your travels and walking fields any tillers starting to die off?
Yeah, like I've seen some areas where it's been quite dry, where yeah, there are a few tillers starting to die off, or just like really undeveloped, like the plant didn't have enough energy to produce a good productive tiller. Um, but yeah, I'd once we start walking more fields for the disease survey, we'll have a better understanding of, of what the crop looks like throughout the province.
Okay, good. Thanks, Anne. The next question I've got is going to go to Marla, and I didn't get a chance to put a slide up, make a slide for this one. And Marla, I talked to you a little bit about this before, and Ag in Motion is on, and a couple producers have called me and asked me regarding this nitro green lightning and where you can make your own nitrogen is, I guess, is what they're promoting. So any comments on that application or what you might have heard about it?
Sure. I heard about this over the winter when I attended a conference, and there was a researcher from, I believe, the University of Minnesota who was speaking a bit about it. A microbiologist who had actually looked at a bunch of different biologicals and such, and was reviewing what's out there for, alternative fertilizer options. And so we do know that, lightning can kind of create a little bit of nitrogen. It's a very low amount and not a significant amount when those lightning events occur. And so there are people who have now kind of looked at that as an option for creating nitrogen. So they've kind of created their own tabletop or kind of do-it-yourself type system. So the only thing that I know about this was from this presentation. And so in this case, the researchers had the green lightning system set up in their lab, and they created the product. And they said that they had used 100-gallon per acre application rate when they were in the field, and that should have been equivalent to 200 pounds of nitrogen. And in this particular case, they got the same yield on the green lightning treatment as their zero nitrogen check. And so we don't, there's a lot of different products out there, I guess, and not saying that it can't work, but recognizing that we need to have some good data behind these things before we kind of jump on board with it, because the idea seems fantastic. And if we had an ability to be able to create that on site, that's a fantastic idea. But the only data that I'm aware of at this point, and there might be other data out there, was from this researcher who used that exact product and just did not get any results. Now, when they talked to the company claimed that the water that they were using was too alkaline, and that's why it didn't work. And maybe water quality then has something to do with it. But again, in those cases, then it's something that you would need to be aware of. If there is any concern that water quality could impact the quality of the product, then it's something that you would need to ask. So if you are looking at purchasing something like this, make sure that you're asking those kinds of questions and figuring out what type of water would then be required in order to make this product work if, any bit of a shift in pH of the water or, particulates and stuff like that are in that water may impact the overall result.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that, I was just thinking that even the storage of the water afterwards, because a lot of times when producers put water in a tank and let it sit for a while, we do get some, growth in the water, algae
Mm-hmm.
growing or whatever, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that might be a concern as well.
Yeah. So again, I don't know a lot about the product. All I was able, when you had mentioned it to me before, because that sparked the idea, I pulled my notes out because I had taken some notes during this presentation, and that's what I had written down in this case. So they just didn't have good results. Again, it takes somebody doing this type of research to actually be able to know whether or not there are results that are showing a significant benefit of different types of products. And when it comes to a lot of these types of products that are out there, because we don't any longer anyway in Canada have to have a proof of efficacy for a lot of these biologicals or biofertilizers or different types of fertilizers that are being kind of marketed now, without having that requirement for efficacy data, we don't then have that proof of proper that the product's going to work. So it doesn't mean that these products don't work. It just means that we don't have to have that proof for these registrations and things for these products to be able to be sold. So it becomes more of a buyer beware, and the onus now becomes on the producer or the agronomist that's working with the producer in order to actually do these tests and test these things out on farm to make sure that they work. So just want to keep people's kind of that idea in check, understanding that it's important to go out and look at where that third party research might be done, where there is some data to show whether or not things work, and where they don't, recognizing that you end up maybe having to be the guinea pig yourself in order to do some product testing. And what that then means is true on-farm replicated, like strip testing, as opposed to just using it and then guessing whether or not it showed. So if anybody's looking for advice, they're agronomists. There's a lot of on-farm work that's being done by the commodity associations, different agronomists that are doing on-farm work. And maybe those are those resources that you can reach out to in case any of those organizations are looking at these types of things and want to do some replicated trials with farmers. But that's the reason why we have to go through that process of kind of taking a harder look at things and testing them on our own now on our own farms, just because we don't have to have that testing in advance of products being sold on the market.
Great. Thanks, Marla. And just wanted to let everybody know that Marla is our soil fertility specialist now. So she has taken John Hurd's old position. So congratulations, Marla, and thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Lionel. I'm looking forward to tackling the new role.
Okay, well, we'll be working with you quite a bit, I imagine. So. Okay, so a few more slides here. These are the diversification centers dates and tours for their tours, sorry. And so we have Wado's tour that's tomorrow in Melita. I'll have their poster up here right away. We had Normal present today for Prairies East, and then we'll have PCDF and MCDC on in the next couple weeks regarding the tours that they'll be having in Roblin and in Carberry. So kind of mark these on your calendar. This is the information for contacting the different diversification centers. So if you're planning on attending tomorrow's Wado tour, if you could still let Scott know, I'm sure the RSVP would be great. Normal mentioned that, again, for himself, if you could RSVP for that one as well, just makes it easier for them to plan and go if they know approximately how many people are coming. There's the information for the Wado Field Day tomorrow. So I think it starts at 9:15 to 10 o'clock. The bus is leaving. So if you meet at the Melita Ball Diamonds, if you're looking at going to that tour tomorrow, be there. There'll be lunch and the tour ends for around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So definitely plan on attending that one. The crop specialist, crop extension specialist in the province. That's our information, contact information, and location. So if you have any questions regarding things you may be seeing in your field, like Anne mentioned, we're definitely going to be doing a lot of surveys in the next little while here, whether it be on cereals or oil seeds. So if you've got a field that you would like us to look at, definitely give us a call. We're always looking for fields. Our livestock and forage extension people, there's their contact information and their locations as well. Regarding livestock, we're talking about dry conditions. So we're in some areas experiencing some drought conditions. So there's some really good information and excuse me, the Beef Canadian Research Council has got a good document or fact sheet here where you could go to their website and get a lot of good information regarding if you're in a situation regarding dry conditions and looking at your feed situation, what you should be looking at right now. They kind of got a plan sheet for you, what you should be looking at now, what you got, the next 1 to 3 weeks, and then the next month or so as you're planning, as you're going ahead. So go to their site, beefresearch.ca, and you'll be able to click on a lot of those links and see and go through a lot of their planning sheets. So definitely some good information there. Also, been getting some calls regarding water quality. So if you're wanting to are getting dugouts that are starting to look like this, definitely contact your forage and livestock people. They've been doing some water sampling. I think they will be able to give you directions as to how to get things done, where to send your samples into, maybe what you're looking at for identification and all that kind of stuff. So if you got some dugouts that are starting to look like this, definitely give them a call and they can help you figure out if you have any problems or if it's any problems at all. Your MASC offices, that's their locations and phone numbers. As we're getting later in the season here, we might be dealing with them a little bit more as it comes to even forage insurance and stuff like that. So if you're looking at if you have forage insurance, you might be wanting to contact them, and especially if your yields are going to be lower, and that's what I'm hearing in a lot of cases. Yields are down this year. And my contact information and Lori's contact information. So I'd like to thank Normal and the Crop Scouting Panel for being on today, and join us next week, July the 23rd, for the next edition of Crop Talk.